The fashion presentation can constantly challenge. At best, it charges every fiber of your being creatively, emotionally, mentally, and for my Aries, Leos, and Sagittariuses who fancy stuff and things, transactionally. Issue 29 of the magazine Arena On Plus spoke of this nameless thing. It's a trend from the late 1970s where you have hard, scally boys from Liverpool and Manchester rocking that outfit, that hairstyle, that overall attitude in an aggressively effeminate fashion. It was also premise for a 2009 film called Awaydays. Now, that issue's editor, the eternally clever Joanne Furness, once said something of the future built on the many iterations of the past. And I kind of use that quote to apply the film Awaydays to being a daguerreotype that frames several of the fall 21 menswear collections, these flashing little palimpsests of contemporary menswear ideas that were contained in the film. What people relate to, what fascinates them, and how the fusion of fashion and culture collide helps to explain the way the world is through fashion when fashion's at its best. That historical sweep of a nameless thing from the movie Awaydays actually gives the fall 2021 collection's entropy its visual language. So let's examine how that works. The film Awaydays takes place in the county of Merseyside, and for the uninitiated, just think Liverpool. Our main characters, named Cardi and Elvis, see Merseyside as a dead end. In fashion terms, this canvas represents the liberating but numbing force of capitalism. It's that dark cloud we all see hovering over obliged clothes that masquerade as fashion. Deflating as that sounds, honestly, it's the ruthless honesty of fashion. It's at times mechanical, insipid, cliched, asking itself, what constitutes a modern man? So these aspects reinforce the torpor of Merseyside through capitalism's unrelenting provocations. Throughout the past year, we've all seen fashion companies relentlessly wag the dog with Timothée Chalamet represents blank, blank is the blank, blank we need right now, like stilted web copy speak. Well, the Merseyside sea and skies represent life's limitless ceiling, a revolution. In that scene, Elvis says, I'd love to get off. I would anywhere. Berlin, just anywhere. Out of here. Out of this. Merseyside hovering provocation inspires Elvis and Cardi a bit into a rebellion of wanderlust. Their need to escape reflects menswear designers' own 2021 rebellion of aspiration, as seen throughout the film, which opens at Cardi's mother's grave. A scene where you have Cardi, his father, and his sister, kind of 1 year later after his mother dies. And Cardi takes a moment, bows his head, apologizes to his mom, and sprints down the opposite road, ripping off his formal clothes, suiting, and changing into the standard uniform embraced by the Pack. The Pack is a gang of football hooligans that Cardi wants to be a part of. Now, their uniform is essentially a cagoule, drain pipe denim, a proper polo, and Adidas Stan Smiths. This uniform and crew represent Cardi's dream, the big dream. Similarly, Ludovic de Saint-Cernan's fall film encapsulates this ideal of the big dream. As his lead model considers what to wear in his small film, the doorbell rings and his friends enter, and a rave of the mind kind of pops off. It's a dream celebration of de Saint-Cernan's trademark embellished, shiny, sensual, slinky garments, where the models are taking selfies, and their like-minded style kind of mirrors Cardi's own wish for like a cool friend group. De Saint-Cernan's model and Cardi seemingly want the same things born for different reasons. It's like permutations of desire, really, where it comes from within and comes from without. That method is how some menswear collections communicated fall 2021 streams. So on to the Pack. For most boys in the mob, the Pack is really their reason for living. They're kind of casually nihilistic for their own sense of proper joy. Like think box cutters for stabbing, hard liquor, and harder drugs. These represent the Pack's semiotics for chaos. These characteristics aren't as important as what they're wearing. And it's at this point that you see each person, each lad as a total style, just a complete coherent style, not the frippery of a trend item. The Pack style considers looking outward, thinking, what are they saying with this style versus being looked at? How do they appear to other people? Now, what the Pack represent embodies Glenn Martin's vision for a tribe for Y Project 2021. There you have Martin's own gang confronting trite sameness of fashion shapes across social media platforms. His unification of asymmetry, Think like the packs against social society is kind of a rage of screaming tribes reflected in why projects trademark uniform signatures, their own, like the packs, where Martin will give you crinkles, folds, wraps, and flaps, but this time multiply it by infinity, the most aggressive infinity, right? The pack project these deliberate incitements of looking different reflect Lazoschmidl's fall collection. The pack have an ability to tease, to provoke, and entice by looking a little like rent boys. Consider that visual clash for a moment, where you have a footballer gang approaching, looking like hard scrabble twinks, really. In this fight scene, one opponent even calls them a gang of homos. These so-called soft boys turning up to fight proper adult men contains echoes of Lazoschmidl's childhood retreat for fall. Return for a minute to the mindset of your mom picking out your clothes while you dream of what you really want to wear. That's essentially the pack style mishmash as well. The boy outside against the man inside. Lazoschmidl always provides that like Bruce LeBruce type of kink with a primary school naivete. It's an utter resolve of hardcore queer spirit that nods to the pack's own style dogma. Style dreams as a daily lived reality. Plus, they win all their fights. Now, the attitude and the swagger and battles between gangs throughout the film echo the game of clothes that's somewhat consecrated into maleness. It's that whole business that men do type of thing, right? Like the absurdly long lines for Johnny-come-latelys to be anointed by a single drop, that forensic OCD tagging of exclusively archival items, like one boy being the ultimate archivist, the like self-regarded like menswear Yoda authority because you've stumbled into privilege to purchase, and the vulgarity of peacocking. All that self-adoration nonsense is contained in like every punch, kick, and scream, and even like swill from Awaydays debauchery. It's just the business that men do, really. Now, as the film moves on, we encounter small tensions between Cardi and Elvis, and they slowly bubble to the surface. Let's take a look at Cardi, right? Cardi is the stereotypical angry male. Essentially, he's pent up aggression in a pair of drainpipe denim. Cardi's nihilistic thrill-seeking masks a greater quest for his search for identity and meaning in his own life. His constant scowl is his mask to the world. It's his astrological moon, really. One-dimensional tropes of masculinity are in his theatricality of trying too hard, hoping to be one of the boys just by doing the most. It's like the aggression of combat and also, tragically unfortunate sexual encounters in the film. Anger is always Cardi's first reaction with Elvis's constructive criticisms, where he's giving advice on how to fit in with the pack. That blockheaded maleness is Cardi's main ingredient. It's a shallow ceiling that humbles him when publicly disciplined by the pack's leader, Godin. Cardi, in a nutshell, Cardi represents Rick Owens' fall collection called Gethsemane. It's a full-on aggression codified into a collection as a fascination, where you have like body confidence perceptions and man's inner struggle to temper it all. It's like an overall conversation on the flaws of men incorporated into clothes. So think about aggression as a primal instinct as seen in one look, where you have tall green fur shag boots. They cover the model's lower body to kind of bifurcate man and beast for like a minotaur effect, where you have like, as I said, half man, half beast. And so like man's rage is also gone schizophrenic in bombers that resemble the power suit. You have like 80s power shoulders that are sliced off, barely hanging by a thread, kind of like Cardi's inability to temper his own impulses. These cases of life's revolution, the acceptance of male shame, or through the acceptance of male shame, was a strong idea in one of the more powerful collections. Now, you contrast Cardi's life with Elvis's life. Elvis's life represents a collage of collages, a series of extremes atop other extremes. That polarized life manifests in the Cardi friendship as their pendulum swings from disdain to loyalty on a daily basis, really. At one point in the film, Elvis slices his hand open for a blood brother's pact with Cardi, and Cardi rebuffs him. So you have these series of micro rejections, along with kind of a lower class status, mental health issues, and very real male shame that Elvis experiences. And these coalesce to trigger a repetition of addiction. This psychotropic escape for Elvis gives him the playground to indulge his fantasies of transcending Merseyside and his romantic fascination with Cardi. He's He's always disappointed with his perception of Cardi's lack of commitment, seen by his failed attempts to get Cardi to take heroin with him. In this way, Elvis is very much J.W. Anderson's inspiration for Loewe, Joe Brainard, the American assemblage artist and author of the Nancy book, took the American comic strip character Nancy out of like humdrum normal scenarios of childhood and into high art satire, like the low hanging fruit of like smut humor and like sex and even cubism. These recontextualizations took the form of clothes collaging for J.W. Anderson, where he's using feminine cutting codes for male clothing, slapping the subversive pansy flower upon garment, upon garment, upon garment. And then you have leather, motherfucking leather. It's, oh my God. Each garment is just a collage as Elvis's life is a pastiche of the excess and heartbreak of living. Now, weirdly, Rick Owens' collection kind of unites both boys' emotional states. Analyzing his own work, Owen said, and I'll quote him here, performing the role of man is absolutely a waste of energy and fills you with unnecessary emotional stresses that then have all sorts of knock-on effects on your physiology, your psychology, and your whole way of being. Using shame or some of the more traditional male archetypes is quite tired. I don't think you can go out with that message anymore, and you shouldn't. Additionally, these darker male exigencies also underscore what Mrs. Prada and Raf Simons bring to their collaborative table. The male psyche at war with stereotype versus independence feels very much like the battlefield of Mrs. Prada's most important collections, whereas Elvis's burgeoning love for Cardi, masked behind a teenage loyalty trope of the best friend, plus the film's framing of his specific floating young male beauty is very much Raf Simons' terrain. It's a bushel of visual concepts that cover the inner zones of fashionable maleness. Like if you relate to a visual strongly enough, you can basically kid out your own style self. Now, as the film winds down, Cardi and Elvis face visceral truths. Each enter their absolute darkness so that they can embrace a different light, an absolute light. In men's fashion for fall 21, Celine, Homme, and Comme des Garçons en plus represent the absolute light. In his darkness, as Cardi stares at the ceiling's abstract shadow, the fashion mind really can't help but consider Willie Cole's sculptures Gone, all Ray Kawakubo Rorschach test for en plus. The Rorschach approach kind of helps understand CDG women's collections usually. What you see is what the meaning represents because we all know Ray Kawakubo does not talk ordinarily. En plus is a more straightforward collection until now, where you had bias button jackets, you had boys in kitten heels, recontextualizing the damsel in distress motif, sticking her leg out on the side of the road to catch her bait. Cardi's vision in darkness reflects Kawakubo's developments in her own dark room, which promote a renaissance of that era's tailoring and silhouettes. You have bustle effect shorts and one or two looks for men. And, usually that's the women's domain, particularly in the lexicon of comb. You think of the peigne skirts from the 18th century punks collection a couple years ago. Well, you also have these Intarsia style knit jackets, bias buttoned, again, resembling weird Armani women's remixes, projecting just an absolute light. It's kind of Kawakubo's positive attitude of modern multi-gendered sensibility. As Elvis, conversely, Elvis is holding a cigarette with his painted nails, considering his own truth, while Cardi faces his final outing with the pack. And as this happens, their dual darknesses arrive. Cardi speaks for both boys at this point, saying, how long had I wanted this? How long had I been waiting for the day out of here, out of this? There it is again. Cardi's representative of a real progression as well. Fashions shift into social change. Something happened to us in life in 2020, a pandemic. And in this film, Cardi's enlightenment happened. Fashion often seems like an endless sentence of hollowness. Like oftentimes its biggest problem is itself, particularly in the hubris of menswear lately, originally the devil's home for details. Churning out check boxes that overstyle without substance removes real meaning from the clothes. Celine, Homme, and Comme des Garçons' fall counterpoints represent the best magazine biannuals of our year. Consider Hedi Slimane's site at Chateau de Chambord, elevating clothes into sovereign articles. Now you have to remember, royalty is a historical marker of proper elitism. It's that high ambition behind Slimane's teen nights that injects youth culture with romance. Arena Homme Plus, issue 26, the Matt Dillon cover, defines chivalry as masculine romance. Well, what represents chivalry more than knights, the medieval soldier, right? In this collection, you have chainmail, gilding across balaclava helmets, Renaissance gone modern capes, and they're all signifiers that Slimane used, like the pack uses in Awaydays, to codify for Slimane not a new style army, but an aristocratic language of casual wear. Cardi's redemption is Celine's own. You think about these new Puritans, Hedi Slimane's soundtrack producers in 2007, born anew in 2021 as the Loom. Spring 21 E-Boys from Celine transformed as romantic knights. The collection had a feel of resolute honor, kind of like, it looks like Joy Division's song Atmosphere kind of sounds, but it's hopeful here and more optimistic. The extremist light of honor. Well, that honor sustainability here is the significance etched into clothes. Awaydays shows us the power of fashion objects by incorporating different ways that the world works, visually connecting clothes to subcultural moments, creative aspects of the self, music, and also dreams gives fashion significance. We mustn't be afraid of the power of the unreal. And these fall collections represent designers with a view to dream and to sell. It is capitalism after all.